Good morning on this very wet, rather cool morning at the UNC Charlotte Botanical Gardens. My name is Jeff Gillman. I'm the director of the Botanical Gardens, and I will bet that all of you are logging on because you are interested in our Titan arum, and I don't blame you. But before we see the Titan arum, I wanted to take this opportunity to introduce you guys to the Azaleas, or the arum family. And there are a lot of really interesting arums out there that you guys might not even be aware of. So let's take a look. All right. One of the more common arums that we see out there is this one right here. Have you ever seen anything like that? That is called Phallus Konjac. Phallus Konjac, also known as the Voodoo lily. Now, the Voodoo lily looks like many of the arums, has a lot of the classic arum traits in that it has a outer spathe. This is called a spathe, and it's actually a type of leaf, okay? So it has this outer spathe, and then inside it has this spike. And in the spike, there are a group of flowers. So spike is actually a group of flowers all clustered together with the male flowers towards the top and the female flowers at the bottom. Now, Phallus Konjac, the Voodoo lily. Ugh. Yep, it smells just like the Titan arum. In other words, it smells like a squirrel died in there. Now, because it's cool this morning, I can't see many insects in there, but typically when I come out here, that will be full of tiny little flies and beetles. And these flies and beetles are the type of flies and beetles that would typically populate a dead body, okay? But in this case, obviously they're not populating a dead body. What they're doing is actually being tricked to coming to this flower to pollinate it. Another cool thing about this particular flower is that down in the soil, and we're not going to dig all the way down there, but down in the soil, this thing actually has something like a bulb called a corm. Okay, well there it is. Now the interesting thing about the corm of Phallus Konjac is that that corm is actually edible. In fact, it's used to make jellies. Now, having said that it's used to make jellies, it's not actually legal to make jellies in certain parts of the world anymore, because these jellies will not break up in your throat like, say, gelatin will. So you're actually much more likely to choke on something with konjac jelly than you would be to choke on something gelatin-based. Generally speaking, do not eat the corms of the arums. The corms of the arums do tend to be, well, kind of toxic, so stay away from those. All right, let's take a look at another member of the arum family right over here. And this one has the very cool name of fanleaf green dragon. If you think that it looks rather like Jack in the Pulpit, well, that's because it's pretty closely related. Now, do you remember what I told you before about the male parts being on top and the female parts on the bottom? We see that again right here with the female flowers on the bottom, male on top. They will actually mature at different times. And the reason that they mature at different times is to ensure that this thing doesn't fertilize itself. Plants like to cross-fertilize. So, the male and female matures at different times. If you're interested in the scientific name on this one, that is Panella pedatisecta. All right, now let's go take a look at some other plants, particularly the arums. For just a little bit warmer, it would be a great day for a walk out here. Take a look at the Evergreen Azaleas. Oh, they look good. This is one of my favorites here. This is not an arum. This is an Henri Anise tree, or Alyssum henrii. Oh, look at those flowers. Don't they look awesome? And one of the neat things about all of the Alyssum, or the anise, so you can take one of those leaves, crush it up, and does that smell good. Now let's go back here for just a second, because we just missed another type of arum right here. And this arum is actually a North American native. I'll bet you guys recognize it. This is Jack in the Pulpit. Erycema triphyllum. And if you open up the spathe there, not having much luck with it, but if we did, we would again see that male-female separation. All right, now let's take a walk up to the greenhouse and see how Rodney the Magnificent is doing. On our way, of course, we get to see the magnificent red buckeye, some more evergreen azalea, and the spider azalea. Unfortunately, just out of bloom. Now, one neat thing about the arums is that they are often thermogenic. What does thermogenic mean? Well, thermogenic means that they actually produce their own heat. And they produce that heat so that they can spread that nasty scent all over the place to attract those flies and those beetles. Not all of the arums are thermogenic, but the Titan arum certainly is. The Amorphophallus titanum. Here we go into the greenhouse, somewhere that most of you can't go right now because we've had to lock it up because of the coronavirus. Oh, another arum right here. Look at that. It's got the spathe and the spike. This is pigtail flamingo flower. Isn't that awesome? I mean, who wouldn't want one of those? Pigtail flamingo flower is Anthurium scherzarium. Here we go on our way to see Rodney. Before we do, this is an as yet unnamed Titan arum. Okay? This is actually the offspring of Odie, who bloomed for us just a few years ago in 2015. Now, when Odie bloomed in 2015, and we don't name them until they actually bloom, but when he bloomed in 2015, he produced some seeds, and this plant came from one of those seeds. Every year, this plant puts up another leaf. Somewhere between the 10th year and 15th year, instead of a leaf, this will produce a flower. That flower will last for about 24 to 48 hours, and then it will disappear. The flower looks like that. The flower, and it isn't actually a flower, it's an inflorescence, and what that means is that there are a whole lot of flowers on that structure. That inflorescence will grow to be about between 5 and 7 or 8 feet tall. In the wild, they can reach 11 feet tall. It is thermogenic. That will reach temperatures of over 100, in fact, around 110 degrees Fahrenheit in order to make that smell of dead things carry all over the place. You notice that big corm at the bottom, kind of like a bulb? Well, we'll have one here, and certainly Rotney has one, and that corm, last time we measured it, was around 60 pounds. Okay, now let's take a look in here. Rotney the Magnificent bloomed for us, about 2 years ago, and is currently producing a bud. And we are excited about this bud. Now, do we know that this bud is going to be a flower rather than a vegetative structure, rather than a leaf? The truth is that right now we have absolutely no idea. Well, I shouldn't say absolutely no idea, but we do not know. But we suspect that it may be a flower. And why do we suspect that it may be a flower? Because the shape isn't perfectly round. When this is a leaf, the shape tends to be perfectly round, but when it's a flower, it tends to have a flattened side. Now, our expert here, Tammy Bloom, she's our greenhouse manager, she believes that this side seems slightly flattened, and I agree with her. So, what are the chances of this actually being a flower? Our guess right now is about 60-40, 60% flower, 40% vegetative. In other words, it's another leaf. We sure are hoping it's a flower. And most of all, we hope that you guys are allowed to come here to see this thing when it does bloom, if it blooms. All right, well, that's it for me today. I'll give you a last look at the life cycle of the arum. And I look forward to talking with you soon. And have a wonderful weekend. And hey, we'll get through this coronavirus thing together. Have a good one.